Hey, autoimmune warriors, welcome to the Stronger Than Autoimmune podcast. I am so fired up for you to be here. If you're navigating life with an autoimmune condition, you're in the right place. I am your host, Des, and I am not just a podcaster. I am right here in the trenches with you as a fellow autoimmune warrior. We're diving into real, uplifting stories and some seriously smart expert tips and simple lifestyle tweaks that can make a difference in how we feel day to day. Now I've got to give a huge shout out to my amazing listeners. You're the heartbeat of this podcast, and I'm so grateful for you tuning in. If you're loving the vibes, here is how you can keep the love flowing. Drop a rating on Spotify, share a quick review on Apple, or pass this episode along to a warrior buddy who can use a boost of hope. Here are some nations that are killing it for our community. Workers with Autoimmune Ailments Alliance. These folks are fighting the good fight for students and workers like us with autoimmune conditions. Want to get involved or learn more? Swing by WAAA.org. They'll love to have you. Leap Cure. They're all about hooking up patients with cutting-edge clinical trials and putting our voices front and center. Check them out at leapcure.com. Adapt Naturals by Chris Kresser. They offer nutrient-packed supplements based on science. Snag 20% off your first order with my code DEZ, D-E-Z, at Adapt Naturals. From my heart to yours, I'm sending you nothing but love and good vibes. Let's dive in together. Today on the Stronger Than Autoimmune podcast, I'm joined by Ritchie, an award-winning author, entrepreneur, and fitness coach who helps busy professionals transform not just their bodies, but their resilience and mindset too. With a background in finance, fitness, and martial arts, Ritchie brings a unique perspective on how discipline, strategy, and holistic health can help us perform at our best, even while navigating challenges like chronic illness. I'm excited to dive into practical strategies we could all use. Welcome to the podcast.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm very interested in your diverse journey from fitness to finance and finance to fitness to martial arts. How did that happen, and how does resilience play a role in all of that?
Absolutely. That's a very good question. Resilience, I think, plays a part in everything. The journey has been quite interesting for me. The shift, I started off, finance. That's my background. I come from banking background. The change happens two ways, right? It could be through inspiration or desperation. And for me, and that's the reason I love your story so much. For me, it was desperation. Desperation when it came to fitness is looking myself in the mirror. I don't like what I see. And when I talk about looking in the mirror, I don't like what I see. I'm not talking about the aesthetics. Maybe yes, that too. I had a martial arts background and went into business and finance, and my health and fitness took a back seat. So when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't like what I see as how I showed up for my loved ones, how I showed up for my employers. And to be honest, Desiree, I was actually scared. I was scared and depressed because I had health conditions that were running in my family. And that was a wake-up call. And I came across a writing by Bob Proctor. You can either be living in a problem or living in a solution. And for me, I was definitely living in a problem. It's time for me to shift into solution. And I did reach out for help, as we all should. The challenge I had was with the work that I was doing in banking, I only had a very short window of time in the evening, and the solutions that personal trainers were giving me, I had to work around their time, which did not work, right? So I did the next best thing. I like fixing stuff. I come from a project background. So I went back to drawing board and started creating my own stuff. But I found fitness quite interesting and ended up getting certified. I became a certified PT, metabolic conditioning coach, sports nutritionist, all that kind of stuff. Again, not to teach, but it was just about helping myself get out of that situation. And that's how it kind of evolved. But that was then. Fitness was really my saving grace in a lot of ways. It opened up a lot of cracks for me. But then I found that in my workplace, in the case of burnout, was a real thing. Then came, we find my relationship will take a back seat as well. So you're healthy, your business is thriving, but I found myself, my energy tanking 2 p.m. again. So what I realized is that, if you don't have system to become the system, so how do you create that? That's how Operators Edge was actually born from that space. How is it you can win? And that again, it takes resilience. And how is it that you can actually navigate? You hit the ground, you pick yourself up and keep on moving and try and find those solutions. So that's a bit of a nutshell in the case of how everything came to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that, because I believe everybody has a story and there's a reason they are at where they're at. So you mentioned that you didn't like what you saw, and how long did that journey take? We're always kind of still shaping
Yep.
and becoming the person we want to become. I think once we stop, we get stagnant and we almost become ill, because we, just like you said, we let everybody else and everything dictate what our life is. So, how did chronic illness become part of these up and downs, or what strategies do you recommend for building this mental strength that you have now?
Well, that's a very good one. And you're right. I think, yes, at times it takes a bit of a while to sort of like navigate and change that. And for me, it was not something that was instantaneous, right? Because I've got a very dear friend of mine and a client as well who's actually who's has autoimmune condition right now. So it's something that is very, very close to my heart. And not only that, I had health conditions that were running in my family as well. So I think it's more about looking at it. For me, it's not so much about the condition, right? Because it's not you're not a condition, right? You're the operator of your life. So I think for me, the game changer has always been looking about what are the controllables as opposed to focusing on the uncontrollables. Say conditions we might not have control about that, but how we respond to it. Are we going to react or are we going to respond in relation to whatever it is that might come our way? I like the serenity prayer, almost like serenity prayer, right? Be able to accept things that we cannot change, right? And have the courage to change what we can, and having the wisdom to be able to tell the difference. So for me, that's almost like a daily thing I have to ask myself. And it's not just a one-off. It's almost like taking a shower, right? Or eating food. It's something that you have to constantly almost remind ourselves, because we're going to get smacked in the face in life. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's how we bounce back. It's not about us falling down. It's about us picking ourselves up.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said that your friend and you have family that deal with chronic illness. How have you helped them with, you talked about stress management and different strategies. How have you helped them realize what we talk about, what we're talking about right now?
Yeah, the reasons are plenty, because I think for me, one of the key pieces we need to focus on is energy, right? Energy is pretty much a starting point. Energy drives execution, everything we do, whatever way we might look at it. So, like for my client, I'll give you for an example. How is it that we can put in place or have in place sort of like systems that can enable her to sort of like have the energy that you need? How is it you can only preserve energy? It's almost like a bank, right? The bank, whatever bank you're looking at filling. Energy bank account is how do you fill it? The real strategies and how you can actually fill it. And I think for me, that is a starting point, because you can have the greatest vision. Energy is a starting point because that's what drives execution, how we show up on a daily basis, something that's going to drive my day. That's pretty much the foundation stone of how I show up.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm sure your friend understands like time and energy are so precious and important with autoimmune disease. And your energy is like such a precious, it's like gold, you want to hold on to it and try to use it as best as possible because you don't know sometimes if when you have a stressor like we were talking about, it really drains their energy. So how are you protecting that? How can you create your own system of tools or stress management to handle that? Would you mind sharing a daily practice that you deal with or you help your friend deal with stress management?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I use Prime. That's a framework I teach on this. So in Prime, the P is all about physiology in the case of movement. So with movement, like in my case, my friend's case, right now she's in a situation where she can only do so much. You don't want to overstrain yourself as well. Take caution. You need to talk to your doctor as well. But what I always recommend is a physiology. You don't get energy, you generate it. So movement. I would recommend just incorporating something what I call movement snacks. Could just be 5 minute movement because that compounds. Physiology is all about movement. Could be a workout. With my friend, what I did, I designed a program for her car recently. It's more about just using like bands where she can actually be sitting down. Then the art in Prime is all about recovery. I think that is not spoken of enough, right? How you feel your bank, your energy bank, is not so much about everything else, it's about the recovery. So the more you recover, the more you're going to get that energy. Are you looking at your sleep? Are you only putting in 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep? Then you got to wonder why your energy is tanking by 10 a.m. So recovery is actually key because it's not only about preserving energy, but all the good stuff happen when we actually sleep or we're resting. Then the I in Prime is all about the inputs, the food, right? If you have autoimmune, say things like inflammation can be quite rife. So are you conscious and looking at the foods that you're eating? What are you taking in first thing in the morning? Are you going for coffee instead of, say, a glass of water, right? Those make a huge difference in how we can actually elevate our energy or sort of like bring it down or tank it, right? And the end is mental conditioning. Talk about resilience, mental conditioning. What are we feeding our minds? Because what we're feeding our minds can elevate our energy or sort of like pretty much deplete it. Before we came on, we talked about the news. But the thing about it is we sort of what is it we're putting in our minds to start off with? Because what we put in our minds is actually is very, very important. So that's the M. Now the E in Prime is all about our environment. I think that's something that is also not sort of like noticed or spoken of enough. Our environment could be our physical environment, or it could be the people we hang around with. Are they elevating us or are they bringing us down? So Prime is just the one framework that I use in how you can elevate your energy. If I look at my movement, did I move today? What are my inputs? So if your energy is sort of like where it's not supposed to be, then you can just look at Prime. Where is it that was actually sort of like slipping today? Then you can actually elevate, look at how I can actually upgrade it tomorrow. So that's how it works.
I love that. You really touched on every piece that you can question in the morning, check in midday, and you can check in the evening. I mean, obviously, you want to probably check in every time you put something in your mouth, but I mean, to get started, I mean, having a good check in of like, where am I with all these things? And it's easy to remember because it's Prime.
Absolutely. And it's just awareness, by the way, because it's not really like prescriptive, but the thing about it is just having that awareness. What did I start off with? Is that maybe in the morning I had a coffee, right? My energy kind of tanked a little bit. maybe it's a coffee. I'll try maybe something. Then you find your stack that works. So you actually repeat. So you have a script or a playbook that you have that you can play on a daily basis to keep on having that same feeling that you had, or keep an ideal.
Yeah. How do you help people find their stack? Because I mean, everybody has their own thing that works for them because everybody's different biologically, mentally, physically. What would you say? How do you help your clients find their stack? How did you find your stack?
Well, yeah, that's a very good one because again, it's all about listening to your body and it's all about awareness and having those audits. Like I had a morning system workshop. How is it you can build your operator a morning stack? Again, everybody's different. We had the same framework, but each one walked away with a whole different stack that was uniquely them. It's about finding stuff. One of the tools we use in how you can actually amplify yourself and get into that state on demand. Say, like if you're going to do a speech or you're going to go on a sales call, how is it you can elevate your state? Have what we refer to as amplify as one of the tools. So for somebody like myself, maybe it could be music. Say you have a warrior playlist, right? That kind of pumps you.
I have one of those.
Oh, you have one of those, right?
Yeah, I do.
Exactly. So it might work for somebody like yourself or maybe myself in the case of music, but somebody else, it might be maybe jumping jacks, right? It could be the brain yoga. So it's about finding that, right? And it's about testing and refining. Then you have your own stack that works for you because you can never know till you try. So again, it starts with awareness. What kind of things, just looking back, what is it that puts you in that state? Because once you're aware of it, then it's almost like fuel and tap, right? You can tap into it. You want to get into that state, you can just tap into it. So to your question, I think it's all about one awareness and those feedback loops as well. Same when you're tired, right? Same when you're feeling unwell, because at times people go like, oh, today I don't feel too great. But what about say you play back the tapes for that day? Play back the tapes, say for the week. That's what I do in my case. Okay, what drained me this week, right? Am I in the case when it comes to leadership? Do I want to be led by me? So it seems like so when you play back the tapes, you have that feedback loop, then you can make that shift. It's only when you measure will you be able to make a shift and make change.
Yeah. And many people aren't willing. I mean, because that takes a lot of work, is really evaluating your day, evaluating your week so you can get to the next level. And I guess that's why people hire coaches like us so they can help go through that journey, because without that, you're just kind of every day going like a falling leaf, like going wherever the wind takes you. Every day you're trying to catch up on whatever your kids have, your partner has, your work has, and it becomes that, like you said, energy crash.
I
I know
love
you
how you
talked
put
about, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I love how you put it in the case of like some people actually hire coaches, right? Because I was talking to somebody about that at the time. It's like coaches at times we don't really bring something novel or something new, but because we've just seen so many things in the past that we just shorten that distance to get it from where you are to where you want to get to. I liken it to keys. I think in life we all handed a bunch of keys, right? And one of those keys can open your horizons to where you want to land, right? And what a coach does, as opposed to you fidgeting and trying to figure out what key is going to open that door, what a coach would do is point you to the right key so you can open that door quicker and get to those new horizons.
I know you mentioned about resilience. What kind of mindset do you need to get resilience? Because, I mean, they go together, but they're different. So, can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think with this resilience, I think it's knowing that, be it, say, if it's a condition, I think not looking at circumstances as a definition of you. And I liked what you mentioned earlier in the case of, I think we did something in those lines. What's happening today, our last chapter in the book has not been written yet, right? So what happened yesterday, what happened today does not define us tomorrow. So we can pretty much rewrite our story. So clarity of vision is key because when we're clear on the vision or where we want to land, where resilience kind of fades is when our vision is not clear enough and we are stuck in say historical stories or stories that are actually holding us down. Stories are actually shackles holding you back, and which is not a definition of actually where you're going. So I think being resilient is more about one, having the faith. And you cannot have faith if you do not have a clear enough vision. You can't be persistent if you don't have the confidence. And confidence does not come off the gate. It's about you pushing forward and keep on putting in those reps. But it's not a definition of actually how tomorrow is going to come out.
Yeah. And how do you build that confidence or that mindset just because you feel you're inflamed? So that kind of distorts your way of thinking. I'm sure you've seen it with your clients and your friend that when you're that inflamed, you almost have a distorted way of seeing things because anxiety, depression, I mean, that's part of inflammation in the brain and the body. So it's hard to really see things clearly. How do you help your clients with that, the confidence, the mindset, the growth mindset, I guess I could say?
Yeah. I think it's more about one having a good support system. When you are in times you can't see the picture when you're at times when you're in the frame as well. So it's quite a tricky one when it comes to when you are in that situation. The most important thing is looking at being able to differentiate what is controllable and what's uncontrollables, and being able to navigate from that. But I think that awareness and having that support system and understanding that this too shall pass.
Yeah, I believe so. I think having some people around you that are more hopeful than you sometimes
Oh yeah,
because it can be very daunting. You know, you have your very dark moments. And I think being able to get, and that's why with every client that I take on, I make sure that they do have somebody to talk to, like a therapist or psychiatrist or somebody that has more of that background than me, just because I can't give them that full support as a coach. I mean, there's actually specialists for that.
yeah, and also understanding that you're not the condition, right? You
Mm-hmm.
are
Oh,
you are
absolutely.
the operator of your life. So I think that is also one key piece to just take into account when going through that.
You have a book. Can you talk about the exploration of your body and success and how that can be translated to or give some tools from that for autoimmune disease?
Oh, absolutely. I think it goes back to yeah, the book is Body and Band Connection, right? And yes, from it could be like in the case of direct translation, you could look at it as a physical bank account, like a literal bank account, how our bodies in the case of help with that. But it could also be a metaphor. Whatever bank account we're looking to fill, be it our energy bank account, our productivity bank account, right? It could be we're talking about how our fulfillment in the case of our health is starts with our bodies, right? So that is what body and band connection is all about. But this one also talks about when it comes to the finances, with that, it's more around the value brings to marketplace because it's all driven by what productivity, right? And productivity studies have shown that when we exercise, we're healthy, we tend to be more productive, right? So that just translates into how body and bank connection works. Yeah. So with that, I think to your question, how that translates is goes back to what we talked about in the case of energy, right? Be it our energy bank account, be it our fulfillment bank account. How is it we can take care of our bodies so it can then feed into our minds? Because when it comes to resilience, it's all about how our minds are. Are we aware of what we're feeding our minds? Because what we feed our minds would then translate not only physically, but how we show up as well. So that's why body and band connection is all about all those kind of pieces and just that awareness. Everything starts with our bodies because that is the foundation stone pretty much of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. We were talking about energy before we got on. We were like talking about, the news. I just stay away from it because I know that's a trigger for me. And I've known it for quite some time. But instead of trying to catch up on different things, before I got on to the recording with you, I got my dog. I said, let's go outside just for a little while. Let's just get some earthing, get our feet on the grass. I need to take off my shoes. He doesn't. We were only out there for 5 minutes. It's energizing as opposed to, like you were saying, what are the energizing you can do? Because I know, it's going to be the rest of the afternoon to do productivity, to do something for my business. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
No, absolutely, because it's what we're talking about earlier in the case of like looking at snacks. In the case of like, it's almost like a snack, a workout snack, and it could just be 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long workout into the gym. But what that does is not just a physicality in giving you the energy, but also in the case of your mind, the clearing our mind. Because what it does, there's so many stresses in the world right now with so much going on and just maybe stuck indoors. But just going out there, taking in the air, breathing in the air and just getting the sunlight in can just do so much wonders. You got a serotonin, dopamine that we actually sort of like get to just counter things like the stresses or the cortisol that we are pretty much almost like exposed to in a lot of ways.
Any small snacks or realistic actions people can put into their lives or their day that can help us with our mind and our body?
Absolutely. Things like in the case of like the self care could be meditation, could be journaling, having that quiet time to yourself. You have to make it almost like a routine, but having that conscious, deliberate effort to do it on a daily basis because at the end of the day, we are our own operators and we can only take care. We're better placed. So how is it that we are better placed to share and be of service to others if we are not showing up as we should? Self-care is very, very important. It starts with what we feed in our bodies, clearing our minds. It doesn't have to be long workouts, as I mentioned earlier. Just sort of like just you having that peace and quiet just to get your thoughts together and have some white space is very, very helpful. We got pent up attention. What it does, it just drains us. And that just has also negative impact, not just on our bodies, but also in our minds as well. So there's all those interrelationships that come into play. So it's simple things like that. Yeah, taking walks, not very long, could just be 20-minute walk if you can, putting in those workout snacks, even if it's just 5 minutes, journaling, and just having just some quiet meditation or peace and quiet.
Thank you. Anything else that I haven't asked you that you think we should talk about?
I think we've covered quite a bit there, but I would say, again, being able to keep that faith going. I think in my case, I've been inspired by my friend because she had a very, very bad episode and how she's actually fighting it and keep going is having that vision that you're not defeated. Right now does not define you, and that condition you're going through does not define you. And that your last chapter of your book is yet to be written. And saying, as Almandina would say, this too shall pass, right? In the case of like resilience, it's all about how we navigate and how is it that we can, it's not so much about not falling, it's how we pick ourselves, how we bounce back up.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way to end our conversation. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.